Well, we now have the week numbers, and 185 million is the estimated take of Spider-Man Far From Home in the United States in its opening week. So I made the video talking about the actual 3-day box office, which was small compared to what people were expecting. But then again, like I said in that video, you had to look at the bigger picture that was at play. The fact that the film opened up on Monday to Tuesday instead of a typical Thursday to Friday. So the first day in theaters was a Tuesday instead of a Friday. So the first 3 days technically were already not really the first 3 days, if that makes sense. It's really confusing. But now looking at the first entire week from Tuesday to the end of Sunday, 185 million is what Far From Home took in. Now this is honestly really good considering they're having hopes of a holdover week after week that's actually pretty decent. And if that's the case, the film is already on track to being the biggest Spider-Man film of all time. Now, not just that, looking at this 185 million, considering the weird timing came out in, the early release in China, tons of leaks out there was a lot of worry. And at the same time, people were saying that at max, this film was going to do 150. Most outlets were actually placing the film at 125. So being able to come in with 40, 50, 60 million on top of that, on the high end of some of these firms, is pretty impressive. Now at the same time, Spider-Man is kind of an interesting one because there was that period of diminishing returns where people just weren't interested and it was making less and less, so I could see why people's fears were there. But I think like many of you, and I was saying this certainly as well, you have to look at the bigger picture here, the MCU factor and how much it's gonna push into it and how much it factors into the actual push forward. And if anything, we learned from Captain Marvel and Black Panther to never underestimate a Marvel Studios movie, even if it's a Sony one. And this box office is clearly a great indicator. Now at the same time, it's gonna be interesting to see how people spin this going the other way coming next week, because a 93 million weekend and 185 plus, like 7 to 8 day calculation is really interesting because it's going to have a huge drop off, but you have to factor in the release date. Boy, that's going to be confusing to get to a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of articles saying out there it's the biggest weekend drop of all time, even though they'll be wrong, but whatever.